Namaste everyone, Anu Chabra here. Till now we people have learnt about underground vegetables like your turmeric, ginger and the vegetables which grow above the ground. In that we have learnt many vegetables like tomato and brinjals. Today we are going to learn something different. Though it's a you can say it's a peanut, comes in the category of nuts, but it grows underground, so also known as you can say groundnut, okay, because it grows under the ground. So the properties, if you talk about the properties of peanut, they are highly nutritious and they equivalent in their properties, we can say equal to almonds. So whatever the benefits we get from almonds, equal amount we get it from peanuts also. And they are very easy to grow. Almost in Indian climate throughout the year we can grow them, but only in the months of, you can say, from October to Jan end, the time where it is peak winters, that time it should be avoided. Otherwise throughout the year it can be grown. The best time to sow them is somewhere after March or April, the full summer. They really like good sunlight and nice water. So even monsoon season they do really well. So let's start how to grow it. So the peanuts can be grown, either you can have these kinds of peanuts. They are not roasted, they are raw peanuts. You can take them, soak them in water overnight. Within 2 days you can say you can see the sprouting happening in these peanuts, and once you see the sprouting we can shift them to the potting mix. So let us talk about the growing medium and the size of the pot first. So as every time I tell, everything whichever you want to grow underground, prefer it to be in a grow bag, because the expansion will be there and these are growing undergrounds, so they get space to expand. So any size between you can say 15 to 18 inches, or minimum size if you want, it should be somewhere around 12 inches. So 12 to 15 inches you can have a range. Now we will talk about the potting mix. As it is growing underground, it is really needs a well drained soil and highly nutritious soil. So we will be taking vermicompost. This is your vermicompost, your coco peat, your red soil, sand and a handful of neem cake. Either it can be in the form of flakes or it can be in the form of powder, okay, whichever. So this has to be just one handful, okay. All these four things, your compost, coco peat, red soil and sand, should be in equal quantities. We should mix them well, and just a handful of neem cake we should add, so that any fungal infection or anything is there in the soil can be taken care by neem cake. Now once the germination have started, or these things have sprouted, it is the time to sow them. So make sure whenever you prepare your pot ready for sowing, every time I tell, 1/3 of the pot should always be dry leaves or twigs like this, okay. So this makes two purpose, I can tell you, this solves two purpose. One is it makes your pot little lighter, as 1/3 is the dry leaves and twigs. Secondly, it helps in a good drainage. As we see, the rainy season is approaching, so if the soil mix is right from the bottom, it becomes very much near to the base of the floor, so the waterlogging problem can happen. So if 2 to 3 inches we keep the dry leaves and twigs, so the water drainage will be really good and the root rotting problem will not happen. So any pot you prepare, this you keep it in mind. Now after this we have to fill the soil till 3/4 of the pot, because overwatering is sometimes because of the rain, and any times we keep adding manure, so that much space should always be there for us to keep adding our manure. So make sure your pot with the potting mix should be filled till 3/4 of the pot. Now once that is done, this is the time to The germinated ones I'm not showing, because the video I never thought of making it today. I wanted it to make it next week, but because my groundnuts are not ready to be harvested yet, but squirrels have dig little my pots. So I thought ki let me when I'm digging this and I'm taking everything out, so let me make the video today itself. So these are not germinated yet, but still you can put without germination also, directly also you can sow, no problem, they'll germinate within a week. So you fill your potting mix and give a nice wash. It should be drenched nicely with water. Then you add your peanuts in the soil. Once you add the peanut, keep the pot for 3 to 4 days in shaded area, and gradually when you see the sprouting, shift them to indirect sunlight, and then once you see 1 or 2 inches growth is there, you can shift them to the brightest sunlight area. They really like good sunlight. Now as peanuts, they are already very rich source of nitrogen, you can say. The root content of these, they come in the family of beans, okay. So the nitrogen content already, it's too much in them, they only release too much nitrogen in the soil. So they are a very good nitrogen fixator in the, acts as a nitrogen fixator in the soil. So better we should not keep adding too much of nitrogen fertilizers to the soil, because already the nitrogen content is more. And as this is a you can say a tuber growth or rhizome growth of the plant, we have to concentrate on this growth. So we have to focus more on phosphorus rich fertilizer, okay. And once you have sown the these peanuts, gradually the plant will grow. Within, you can say 20 to 25 days, the plant reaches approximately 10 to 15 inches of height. Now this is the time when the plant will start bearing flowers. So the flower of this plant is mostly like your Shankpushpi flower, but it will be in yellowish color. The shape and all, it's mostly resembles this only. So it will be in a yellowish color, and again the male and female parts of the flower will be in the same flower only. So pollination is not that difficult, but we have to make sure that it is surrounded by nice floral plants so the pollinators can be attracted. Now the one very much interesting part of this plant is that now suppose I'll explain you with this. Suppose this is the plant. Now the plant, if it is bearing a flower here, okay. So generally what happens, till now what we have seen regarding your brinjal or tomato, the flower has the male and female part, and that flower, at the behind of that flower only the fruits start forming. But this is a very unique plant. What it does is, I'll show you if I now this flower is always attached to a peg. This is called a peg, means this is not directly attached to the stem. One very small thread kind of a thing will be there. At the tip of that, the flower will be attached. Now this flower, if the pollination gets successful in this, that flower will convert into embryo. That is the peanut, you can say. That's till now this stage is embryo. You can see a very small embryo after the fertilization, okay. Now this peg, what you see here, this peg starts growing longer. Now suppose this is the area where the soil is there. So this peg keeps growing till it touches, suppose this is the soil layer. So this peg will keep growing till it touches the soil. Can you see properly? This touches the soil, and then it will keep itself horizontally like this. The embryo will not settle like this. The embryo keeps itself horizontally. Got it? A small embryo you can see here. When it touches the soil, it keeps itself horizontally and start growing in its size, okay. And it's again, it start entering inside the soil. Gradually it enters inside the soil as it grows bigger, okay. So the whole process in the blooming of the flower, growing of the pegs, fertilization, growing of the peg and reaching to the soil, and then these entering inside the soil for further growth, this all process take approximately 2.5 months. So you can say the time we have sown these peanuts till the time we harvest the peanuts, the entire process takes 4.5 months to 5 months. So what some people they feel that how to know, as it's an underground thing, how do we come to know that it is ready for harvesting? The very basic sign what this plant shows is, it starts, now mine as I told you, still another 1 week to 10 days was there. So it starts drying, the leaves start becoming yellow and the entire upper foliage, you can say, it will start drying up. So once you see the entire foliage or whatever the growth was there, it has started yellowing, becoming yellowing, or it has started drying, then that is the ideal time to harvest it. Now suppose this was growing like this and it has dried up, we can pull it nicely, loosening our soil, we can pull it, and then we get something like this with the roots attached. Now how to consume it? Now when you take out the peanuts from the or the groundnuts from the soil, make sure you do not consume it immediately, because they might have some fungal infection or some fungus growth on them which might upset our stomach. So the ideal practices is, you just take out these groundnuts like this and hang it in any area, just tie it with the thread and just hang it for some time. Let it be down and just hang it. So it should be around 10 to 15 days minimum, it should be air dried. Till that time you are not supposed to touch water and you are not going to wash it. Just remove the soil with the hand and then let it air dry. Once after 15 days, if you see completely the shell has been dried, there is no moisture, you can open the shell and you can check with the peanut and you can consume it. Now if you want to store these peanuts for a longer time, okay, in the form of these groundnuts without removing this shell, if you want to store them for approximately 1.5 to 2 months, then you should not remove them like this. It should be with their shell only. So if the upper shell is there, the life will be more. Otherwise, it is very difficult to store them more than 2 weeks. A small white color worms will start developing inside this. Okay. So storage is little difficult. Maximum 2 months you can store. If this is there, you can just remove all the roots, stems, everything, spread it nicely, dry it so that no moisture is there, and then in any airtight container you can store it. Now we talked about the growth, the cycle, the storage, everything. Now one thing what we have to discuss is the fertilizing. As I told you, because these are nitrogen fixated plants, so they don't need much of nitrogenous rich soil. So what fertilizer we have to give is, should be rich in phosphorus, because we want the formation of these in a bigger one. So what we have to do, either we can give our bioenzyme or banana peel fertilizer, because both are rich in phosphorus, or if you can't make that, you can use rock phosphate. That also once the flowering starts, before that not required. The plant will take care of itself very nicely. One major problem what it gets is the fungal infection, or sometimes the blackening of these spots will be there. Okay, so any fungicide or the soap nut solution, you can see, yeah. So any fungicide like SAF we get in the market, that you can dilute and spray it, or your soap nut solution once in 10 days. This you have to do it from the very beginning, so there won't be any fungal infection, no these black spots will be there, so plant will be healthy. And for watering, this plant really needs a very good moisture, well drained soil with good moisture. So if mulching possible, do the mulching with the dry leaves. Sometimes in fields and all, they cover it with the mulching sheets. So in pots and all, when we are growing, we can do a nice mulching, approximately 1–1.5 inch mulching if you give. So always the moisture content will be intact in the pot. so the growth of these groundnuts will be really good. So make sure you do that. And initial stages till the flowering stage, the watering should be really good. The soil should always be moist. Once the flowering has started and this you can say the formation, you can just see removing the upper layer of the soil, you can just check these have started forming the groundnuts. So that time you can just reduce watering little, but before that it should be really moist, the soil. And that's all for the growing of this. Only thing is we have to make sure that the harvesting time, when you see the entire plant is dried up, little you have to dig the soil, and then you see, if you see the size is sufficiently grown, then we can harvest it properly, the entire stuff. And while buying the seeds also, make sure do not sow all the seeds together. Sometimes what happens, we sow the seeds together and later we see that the seeds qualities were not good. So make sure 1 or 2 germination tests you just do it, because so much effort we are going to put for another 4 months. So make sure the seed quality is really good. Any reliable source you should buy the seeds, and the growth and the care, everything is very minimal. So make sure you grow it. It's a really rich source of minerals, you can say everything what we need for our day-to-day life. It's really good, and it's good to have in our garden or a terrace. Enjoy harvesting. It's something new to experience. Thank you for joining me. Let's join for some other videos next time. Thank you.